Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be tackling loans that are kind of strange, like loans where the lender pays you.
Oh, yeah, reverse mortgages, right.
Exactly. We're going deep into reverse mortgages.
Specifically for like seniors and retirement planning. Yeah.
That's our focus today. We've got a ton of sources here, government websites and financial advice columns, all sorts of stuff to help us unpack this for you.
Excellent. Sounds like we've got a lot to cover.
And of course, I've got our expert with me,
Yeah.
who's amazing at explaining all this complex financial stuff.
Well, I try my best. Reverse mortgages, they really kind of flip the script on what we think about home ownership and loans.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of paying down your mortgage little by little, it's more like you're turning your home equity into cash, but you still get to stay in your home.
That is such a key point in one of our sources. How reverse mortgages work from bank rate makes it really clear that there are NO required monthly payments. While you're living in the home, so you're not really adding any expenses, you're potentially freeing up cash flow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be huge for someone on a fixed income, right?
Oh, without a doubt, especially when you consider a lot of people are heading into retirement still having that mortgage hanging over their heads.
Oh, for sure.
That Why Seniors Should Consider a Reverse Mortgage article, it really highlighted how getting rid of that monthly payment can seriously improve a senior's cash flow, right? Lets them stretch their savings or deal with unexpected things that pop up.
It's strategic. It's not just like, here's some money. It's like, this is how you manage your finances in retirement.
It's a tool, yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm guessing there are some qualifications to get this kind of loan. You can't just walk in and say, hey, give me a reverse mortgage.
Right, there are a few hoops to jump through, yeah. Reverse Mortgage Guide lays out some of the main ones. You got to be at least 62.
Okay, so there is an age requirement.
Yep, 62 or older. Got to own your home, or at least have a good chunk of equity in it, and you have to go through a counseling session.
Oh, with like a financial counselor or something?
Yeah, from a HUD-approved counselor, it's actually pretty important.
What's the main point of that counseling session? Is it to just make sure people aren't going into this blindly?
Pretty much, yeah. A bunch of the sources we looked at, including like the HUD FHA Reverse Mortgage for Seniors info, they all stress that this session covers everything,
Really?
Like the different kinds of reverse mortgages, what they cost, how the payments work, how it affects your heirs. It's really there to protect seniors from making a decision they'll regret.
That makes sense. It's a big decision.
Absolutely.
Speaking of different types, I saw that the guide mentioned something called a HECM.
HECM?
Yeah, home equity conversion mortgage, I think it stands for.
Right.
And it's federally insured, right?
Yeah, that's the most common type you'll see. And that FHA insurance, that really gives the borrower some extra peace of mind.
Okay, so like a safety net kind of thing.
Exactly. It guarantees that you or, whoever inherits your home won't ever owe more than what the house is actually worth, even if the loan amount ends up being more than the property value when it's time to pay it back.
That's huge, especially with how the housing market can be up and down all over the place.
Absolutely.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of people listening are going to appreciate knowing that.
Oh, and speaking of guidance, companies like GenNext.Mortgage, they can really help people navigate all these details.
Yeah, GenNext.Mortgage, they're the leading direct-to-consumer mortgage lender. They do reverse mortgages, right?
Yep, and they can give you that tailored advice specific to your situation.
Perfect. And I understand they offer free consultations too, so you can kind of get your feet wet. Their number is 978-705-1278, and their NMLS number is 2326098. So we've got that out there for our listeners. Now let's talk about the money you get from a reverse mortgage. I was reading why seniors should consider a reverse mortgage, and it says you can pretty much use it for anything. Is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty flexible. In fact, the reverse mortgage guide even mentions using it to buy a new house, like a reverse purchase.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Think about downsizing or moving closer to family or just getting a place that works better as you get older, and all without those monthly mortgage payments.
That's incredible. It opens up so many possibilities. I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true, so there have got to be some downside, some risks that we should be aware of, right?
Oh, definitely. Reverse mortgages from the consumer advice website goes into the costs. Things like upfront fees and closing costs, mortgage insurance, and all that interest that adds up over time.
Right, of course.
And even though you don't have those monthly payments, you still got to take care of the basics, property taxes, homeowners insurance, and keeping the property in good shape.
Makes sense. You still own the home, you got to take care of it.
Exactly. Fannie Mae's Understand Reverse Mortgages really emphasized that if you let those things slide, You could even face foreclosure.
Okay, so it's not a total free pass.
No, you've got to be responsible.
You still have to be financially responsible. Now, what about the kids, the heirs? I know that's a big concern for a lot of people.
That's a big one for sure. When you pass away, your heirs inherit the house, but also the loan, right?
They inherit the whole package.
Exactly. And they'll have to decide, do they want to pay off the reverse mortgage, maybe sell the house, or just let the lender take the property?
That's a big decision for them.
It is.
It sounds like it's important to have a conversation with your family.
Oh, absolutely.
Get everyone on the same page.
Transparency is key.
Absolutely. So we've talked about some of the potential downsides. What about any other benefits that we haven't mentioned? I feel like there's got to be more to the story.
Oh, there is. One thing that people often overlook is the tax advantage. The Bankrate article specifically pointed out that the money you get from a reverse mortgage, it's tax-free.
Oh, wow.
And that can be huge for seniors who are trying to keep their tax burden low in retirement.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So we've got flexibility. You can potentially improve your cash flow, no monthly payments, and possible tax benefits.
Don't forget peace of mind. That's a big one. Imagine knowing you can cover unexpected medical bills, home repairs. You can even help out family members if you need to, all without draining your savings or racking up credit card debt.
It's like a safety net for those unexpected things that life throws your way, especially as we get older.
Exactly. And don't forget, companies like GenNext.Mortgage, they can help guide you through all of this.
Oh, for sure. GenNext.Mortgage, they're the experts.
Yeah, they'll answer your questions, they can explain all the different types of reverse mortgages out there, and they can help you figure out if it's even right for you.
Fantastic. Their expertise is really invaluable. I just want to remind our listeners again, their number is 978-705-1278, and their NMLS number is 2326098. Now, before we move on to some real-life stories about how reverse mortgages have made a difference, there's one important thing I want to emphasize.
Okay, what's that?
We've talked about a lot of positives, but every financial decision comes with some risk.
Well, of course, yeah.
We're going to get into those risks a bit more later on, but I just want our listeners to remember it's important to look at this with a balanced perspective.
Absolutely. It's all about making smart choices that work for your needs and goals.
Exactly. So stay with us. We're going to keep diving deep into the world of reverse mortgages. We'll look at some real-life examples, take a closer look at those potential downsides, and by the end of this deep dive, you should have a good idea of whether this financial tool could work for you as you plan for retirement.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive on reverse mortgages. We're going to be looking at some real-life examples of how reverse mortgages can really make a difference for seniors.
I'm excited to see this in action, how people have actually used these loans to improve their lives. We can talk about the concept all day, but seeing it in real life, that's where it really clicks.
Oh, absolutely.
One of our sources, a CBS News article called Why Seniors Should Consider a Reverse Mortgage, really caught my attention.
Oh, yeah. What did they say?
It talked about using these loans to deal with those unexpected things that happen in life. Like a sudden medical bill or a major home repair, things you just don't budget for.
That's a common thing for seniors. You're cruising along in retirement, everything's going smoothly, and then bam, a huge expense you weren't prepared for.
Yeah, that can really throw a wrench in your plans.
It can. And for many, that could mean having to use up their savings, maybe taking on some high-interest debt, or even worse, having to sell their home.
I can see how that would be a scary situation, especially when you're on a fixed income. Every dollar counts.
Exactly. Having access to your home equity through a reverse mortgage can provide a safety net in those situations.
So instead of panicking, you've got options.
Right. You can tap into that equity to cover those costs without having to upend your whole life. It's about staying financially stable and having peace of mind even when those curveballs come your way.
The CBS article also mentioned something I hadn't really thought about before, using a reverse mortgage to help family members with education costs.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is. With college tuition being so expensive these days, it's tough. A lot of seniors want to help their kids or grandkids go to college, but they might not have the cash on hand to do it.
A reverse mortgage can be a way to bridge that gap.
Yeah, it's like an investment in the future of your family. But we did talk earlier about the potential impact on heirs. How does that work when you're using the money for something like education expenses?
That's a really good question, and it goes back to what we were talking about before. Communication is key. You got to be upfront with your family about your decision to get a reverse mortgage.
Make sure everyone's in the loop.
Exactly. They need to understand that the loan has to be repaid when you pass away, most likely by selling the home, or they can choose to forfeit the property to the lender if they can't afford to pay it off.
So it's not just a decision you make on your own, it involves the whole family.
It really does, and it's important to have those conversations early on so everyone understands what's happening and can plan accordingly.
And companies like GenNext.Mortgage, they can be a big help in navigating those conversations. They're experts in reverse mortgages, and they can offer guidance for both you and your family.
Absolutely. They can really help facilitate those tough conversations and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, it's great to have that support system in place. I just want to remind our listeners, GenNext.Mortgage offers free consultations so you can talk to them and get advice tailored to your specific situation.
That's such a valuable resource.
Their numbers is 978-705-1278, and their NMLS number is 2326098. Now, I remember that the CBS article also talked about the benefit of getting rid of those existing mortgage payments. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. Imagine you're retired, you're living on a fixed income, and you're still making those monthly mortgage payments. That can really eat into your budget.
Oh, I bet.
But with a reverse mortgage, you can use the money you get to pay off that existing mortgage completely.
Wow, so no more monthly payments.
Exactly. It's like getting a raise in retirement. That extra money can be used for anything: travel, hobbies, helping family, or just making sure you're comfortable and can cover your day-to-day expenses.
That sounds pretty amazing. More financial freedom in retirement.
That's the idea. It's all about increasing your financial flexibility and taking some of that pressure off, especially when it comes to those fixed expenses.
I don't want to dwell on the negatives too much, but we have to talk about the risks involved with reverse mortgages.
Right. We got to be realistic.
We talked about foreclosure earlier. Are there any other downsides that we need to make our listeners aware of?
One potential concern is the impact on eligibility for government benefits, like Medicaid, for example. While the money you get from a reverse mortgage isn't considered taxable income, it could potentially affect your eligibility for programs like that.
Oh, so it's something to consider.
It is. The best thing to do is to talk to a financial advisor or someone who specializes in benefits. They can help you figure out how a reverse mortgage might affect your specific situation and if there are any steps you can take to make sure you don't lose those benefits.
It sounds like it's best to be prepared and get all the information you need before making any decisions.
Absolutely. It's all about being informed and making choices that are right for you.
And that's where getting advice from experts like GenNext.Mortgage can be so helpful. They can guide you through all those details and help you understand both the good and the bad so you can make a truly informed choice.
Definitely. They're a great resource.
Their expertise is invaluable. And again, listeners, they offer free consultations, so you can reach out to them at 978-705-1278 and get some personalized advice. Now, I think it's time to take a look at the different types of reverse mortgages that are out there.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. There are options, and they're designed to meet different needs and financial goals.
It's good to have choices, but it can also be overwhelming. The Reverse Mortgage Guide does a good job of breaking down these different types, which I found helpful.
It's a great resource.
They talk about the most common type, the HECM, the Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, which we've mentioned a few times already.
Right, the HECM.
We know it's federally insured, but what else makes it stand out?
The HUD FHA Reverse Mortgage for Seniors, HECM webpage, they highlight a key feature: non-recourse.
Non-recourse. Okay, remind me what that means again.
Basically, it means that you or your heirs will never owe more than the home is worth, even if the loan balance ends up being higher than the property value when it's time to repay the loan.
So it protects you, even if the housing market takes a downturn.
Exactly. It offers some peace of mind in a market that can be a bit unpredictable.
That makes sense. But what if the HECM isn't the right fit? What other options are there?
Well, the Reverse Mortgage Guide also talks about proprietary reverse mortgages.
Proprietary reverse mortgages, okay.
These are offered by private lenders, and they often have higher lending limits, which is good for people who own more expensive homes.
So if you have a higher value property and need to access more equity, that might be a good route to go.
It could be, yeah.
But I'm guessing there are some trade-offs.
There are. Proprietary reverse mortgages might have different eligibility requirements, and the costs could be different compared to HECMs. It's important to really compare those loan offers and understand all the details before you commit to anything.
That's where having someone like GenNext.Mortgage on your side can be so helpful. They can help you sort through all those choices and make sure you're getting the best deal possible.
Definitely, they can break it all down for you.
And their consultations are free, so there's no risk in reaching out to them. You can call 978-705-1278 to schedule a consultation. Now, there's one more type of reverse mortgage I want to touch on, the single-purpose reverse mortgage. What can you tell us about that one?
Single-purpose reverse mortgages are usually offered by government agencies or nonprofits, and they're designed for a specific purpose, like paying for home repairs, property taxes, or making changes to your home so it's more accessible.
So it's more targeted, less flexible.
Exactly. The main advantage is that they usually come with lower costs, and the eligibility requirements might not be as strict compared to HCCMs or proprietary reverse mortgages.
Okay, so potentially more affordable.
Right, but the catch is that you can only use the money for that specific purpose outlined in the loan agreement.
So less flexible, but potentially more affordable, and with easier qualifications. It's like choosing the right tool for the job.
That's a perfect analogy. The best reverse mortgage product for you really depends on your individual situation and what you're hoping to achieve.
And this is where getting advice from experts like GenNext.Mortgage can make such a big difference.
Absolutely.
It can help you figure out which option aligns with your needs and walk you through the whole process step by step.
They can also give you some insights into the potential long-term implications of each type of reverse mortgage, so you can make a decision that supports your financial well-being now and in the future.
And that brings us to a great transition point. We've talked about real-world examples, the different types of reverse mortgages out there, and now, in our final segment, we're going to focus on those long-term implications and help our listeners make informed decisions that are right for them, their goals, and their priorities.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've talked a lot about reverse mortgages already, but now it's time to think about the future.
Yep, we've covered how they work, the benefits, all those different types.
Right.
But like with any big financial decision, it's important to think about the long-term, the implications down the road.
Absolutely. And one of the sources we've been looking at, Reverse Mortgage Guide, they really stress that it's not just about what a reverse mortgage can do for you today.
Right.
It's about how it might affect your finances down the line, like 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that keeps coming up is the impact on your estate. I know we touched on this before, but for anyone who might have just tuned in, can you explain that again, how it affects the kids or whoever inherits the house?
Sure. The main thing to remember is when you pass away, your heirs, they inherit the house.
Right.
But they also inherit that loan obligation.
The whole package deal.
Yeah, and that can be tough, especially if they weren't prepared for it, financially.
Reverse mortgages from that consumer advice website had some good advice on this. They said, talk to your family, include them in these conversations.
Oh, yeah, communication is key.
Because everyone needs to be on the same page, especially when it comes to inheritance.
Absolutely. It's all about honesty, being transparent. Families need to talk about their money situation, what their plans are, and how a reverse mortgage fits into all of that, even though it can be a tough conversation to have.
I bet, but definitely worth it in the long run. Another long-term thing I was thinking about is those government benefits, like Medicaid. We talked about that earlier, how Reverse Mortgage Guide mentioned it as a concern.
Yeah.
Could getting a reverse mortgage affect someone's eligibility for something like Medicaid?
That's a question we get a lot. And the good news is, generally, the money you get from a reverse mortgage, it's not counted as taxable income.
Okay.
But it could affect your eligibility for those needs-based programs like Medicaid.
So it's not a clear-cut yes or no?
It really depends on your situation,
Yeah.
The best thing you can do, honestly, is talk to a financial advisor or someone who really knows about benefits. They can walk you through how it would work for you specifically, and if there's anything you can do to protect your eligibility, if that's a concern.
So many things to consider. It seems like figuring out all these long-term implications can be a bit complicated. Just reinforces the importance of getting good advice, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You need someone you can trust. And companies like GenNext.Mortgage, they really specialize in this stuff,
Yeah, they do.
guiding people through it all. That expertise can really help make sure you're making the right decision for your long-term financial well-being.
They're a great resource. And just a reminder for our listeners, those consultations are free. You can call them at 978-705-1278 to get that personalized advice and answers to your questions. Their NMLS number is 232-6098. So I think the big question everyone wants to know is, are reverse mortgages a good idea? Bottom line, should I get one or not?
Ah, that's the million-dollar question, right? And like with most financial things, there isn't one answer that fits everyone.
Right.
It really boils down to your situation, what your financial goals are, how much risk you're comfortable with, and your plans for the future.
Reverse Mortgage Guide did a good job of showing both sides, the good and the bad. They pointed out that for some homeowners, it can be a great tool.
Yeah, especially those who are trying to make their retirement income last longer, or maybe they have unexpected expenses, or they just want to stay in their home as they get older without having to sell it.
It can make aging in place a lot easier.
Right. But the guide also said, be careful. You got to weigh the costs, the risks, all those long-term things we've been talking about.
It's all about finding that right fit. A reverse mortgage could be perfect for one person, but a total disaster for someone else.
Exactly. It's not about whether they're good or bad in general. It's about whether they're good for you specifically.
That makes a lot of sense. So again, getting advice from those professionals, it's really important.
It is. They can help you look at your options, understand all the details, and then make a decision that aligns with what you want to achieve.
And again, GenNext.Mortgage can help you with that. They specialize in reverse mortgages. And those free consultations, that's a great way to start.
Yeah, they can help you figure out if it's a good fit, and if it is, which type of reverse mortgage would work best for you. Really valuable when you're making a big financial decision like this.
I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into reverse mortgages. So as we wrap up here, what are some key takeaways for our listeners to remember?
The most important thing, I think, is that reverse mortgages can be a great tool for seniors, especially those who are looking to access that home equity without having to sell their home.
Right.
It gives them flexibility, some potential financial relief, and even that sense of security.
Yeah, that peace of mind. But it's also important to be cautious, right?
Absolutely.
Don't jump in without understanding the costs, the risks, and all those long-term implications we've been talking about.
You got to do your research, shop around, compare offers, and most importantly, get advice from people you trust, like the folks over at GenNext.Mortgage. Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. The more you know, the better decisions you can make. We hope this deep dive has been helpful and informative.
If you're thinking about a reverse mortgage, remember, GenNext.Mortgage is there to help. Free consultations, they'll walk you through it, help you make the right choices for your future. You can call them at 978-705-1278. Their NMLS number is 232-6098.
And remember, this is just one deep dive. We've got a whole ocean of knowledge to explore here on the deep dive. We cover all sorts of interesting topics, so be sure to check out other episodes. And if there's something you want us to cover, let us know. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.